There's only a few teams in the NBA that concern me when it comes to the Warriors. The Memphis Grizzlies, tonight's opponent, is one of them. And we have an individual who knows this team, who's an expert covering this team. Drew Hill is going to join us on Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
For making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms. This episode is brought to you by TrueBill. TrueBill is a new app that saves you money by helping you identify and stop paying for the subscriptions you don't want or need, and can even negotiate better deals on those you want to keep. Joining us, Drew Hill, and that is my stepson behind me. Okay, can you get out of this screen, buddy? Okay. And no, buddy. This is a live episode, buddy. Please don't play on your device. Drew Hill of the Daily Memphian joining us today. And folks, that was your first glimpse of my stepson. I promise I will get him involved here at some point. He always talks on the podcast. Drew, you're in Memphis. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm good, man. Thank you so much. And I guess let's get right to it. The Golden State Warriors have the second best record in the NBA. They're pretty much 1-2 with the Suns, pretty much in everybody's subjective opinion. That's how you rank it. They seem to be flipping back and forth. The Christmas Day matchup will likely decide who has the best record in the Western Conference, but not far behind them is a team that, if you're a member of Dub Nation, you have to respect Grind City. You have to respect the Memphis Grizzlies. This is a team that knocked them out of the play-in last year. This is a team that, for those of you that have a longer memory going back to 2015, really played that first championship team hard in the Western Conference Finals. These two teams have an extensive history. And so we're going to get into it, like who Memphis is and who this potential nemesis now and in the future is. So first off, though, let's talk about your background, Drew. You're at the Daily Memphian. We were talking before we started recording. You're one of two publications in the great city of Memphis in terms of a news source. What's your background? How'd you get to the position you're at today?
Oh, wow. That's kind of a long story, but I went to the University of Alabama. I grew up in Kentucky. I studied journalism there. I wrote for the local newspaper in Tuscaloosa, covering all kinds of high school sports, and then eventually to Alabama football. Once I graduated there, I got the job as the Memphis Tigers beat writer, which the Tigers, believe it or not, are just as big as the Grizzlies in the city of Memphis because they have a long history of winning, actually. And Penny Hardaway is now the coach. So obviously that is a very big deal.
And Jimmy Wiseman, our Warriors, hopefully starting center at some point, also alumni there. Yeah.
Also played here. Yes, I actually covered James Wiseman and the James Wiseman team. I was the beat writer for the Memphis Tigers that season. Left the first newspaper where I worked to go to this new style brand of newspaper that's digital only. It's nonprofit. It's local businesses wanting to support local news, which is obviously great. I think it's one of the futures of the industry, but that's besides the point. And left the Tigers to cover the Grizzlies. Although I liked and enjoyed covering the Tigers, and the Tigers do have a very big audience, unless you're emotionally attached to them, right? You'd rather cover the NBA team in town. So I covered the Grizzlies. My first assignment was going to the bubble. So I went to the bubble right away. And then now I've spent last year and up to this year as the Memphis Grizzlies beat writer. So it came in at the perfect time during John Morant's rookie season. And here I am now, 2 years into the gig, and it's great. It's a lot more fun that the Grizzlies have this future, it feels like, ahead of them, or at least something to hold on to at the moment versus where they were before when I was covering the Memphis Tigers. The Grizzlies were one of the worst teams in the NBA. And here they are now, fourth place in the West.
Yeah, that's it. That's an interesting track record. I mean, for a student to be covering the University of Alabama's football team, I mean, you're just jumping right into the mainstream field. I mean, that's Alabama football is on par with NFL football, in my opinion, in terms of popularity and reputation and prestige. That's impressive. And so my day job, besides doing this, is I'm a journalism professor. And your subscription model, your business model, I apologize, to me is the future of journalism. The subscription model to me, again, you're taking out a lot of the agenda that corrupts journalism. And again, everyone just seems to want to subscribe nowadays. So I wish your organization, the Daily Memphian, the best of luck with that, because to me, our democracy is in serious jeopardy given how much free content people are consuming and how much subjective opinionated content that people are consuming. So on that note, I do wish you the best of luck. We're here to talk Warriors and Grizzlies in this case. I saw you on Twitter a few days ago, and this is a huge reason why I asked you to come on, besides the fact that you cover the Grizzlies. And that was you posted something about John Morant and how you were just the messenger. You were just reporting what John Morant said, right?
Yeah.
About what the fans told him. Tell us the story there. What happened there?
Okay, so obviously since John Morant went out, he went out on November the 27th. He got injured his knee against the Hawks. Everybody sort of assumed the worst, feared the worst because it was a non-contact injury. It turns out that it's just a sprain, which is great. Last year, Ja had a pretty bad ankle sprain and came back really quickly. So everybody assumed that he'd probably beat the timeline that they put out there. They decided to not put out a timeline as far as when he was going to return. So they left it up in the air. Christmas was the target date. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden he goes, and it looks like he's getting close. And then he goes into health and safety protocols. So he's out a whole week. Everybody's sort of waiting. Meanwhile, the Grizzlies are just tearing through their schedule. They start out 10-1. They finish 10-2 without John Morant. A lot of it was luck, if we're just being honest. They faced a lot of teams that were missing their star players. And so that obviously helped. They had the 73-point win over the Thunder. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander doesn't play. Josh Giddey doesn't play. So they beat the Mavericks. Luka Doncic didn't play. So you had a lot of fortunate breaks there during that 10-game or that 12-game stretch, but you still go 10-2. And everybody's really impressed with the Grizzlies. They go from one of the worst defenses in the NBA to the top defense in the NBA through those 10 games. And so everyone was really impressed with what they were able to do without John Morant. Everyone stepped up. Desmond Bane made a big leap. Jarren Jackson made a big leap. And meanwhile, John Morant is sitting at his house watching the games on TV in health and safety protocols. And while he wants his team to win, he's also watching how much better they were playing when he wasn't on the court. So he admitted when he came back, there was a mental block there. Hey, I need to make sure that I don't disrupt the momentum of my teammates when I get back out there on the floor. So he returns against the Thunder, the full-strength Thunder, in the game on Monday night, and takes 2 shots in the first half. Ends up playing a pretty good game. He has 16 points, 8 assists, 6 rebounds. That's a solid game on 50% shooting. But after the game, he comes back and they lost to the Thunder, a team that they had just beat by 73 points, to the media room in this somber mood and says, I'm hurt because a Grizzlies fan sitting courtside said I need to sit back down during the game, and that just hurts me. And I just watched this team play great without me, and that's not going to help me get over this mental block when I come back. So, it blew up. It became quite the storyline. I'm not so sure that this isn't just a winning and losing thing. If you follow John on a day-to-day basis, after wins, he's super happy. After losses, you can't talk to him. He's so upset you can't even talk to him in a lot of cases. I think if the Grizzlies had won that game, that never comes up. We're not talking about that. He's done nothing but support Memphis throughout his entire career. He's been one of those types like Damian Lillard who has said, this is where I want to be. I'm a small town guy from small town South Carolina. He's got a Nike basketball commercial now where he's supporting the city of Memphis completely. So I don't think that this is, Ja's unhappy in Memphis. He's going to get out of there as soon as he can. That's not the situation we're dealing with right now. But we are dealing with a Ja Morant that is upset by what was said about him the other day.
Was it just? Do you think was it just one fan, or was there a handful, because you just I didn't hear the singular thing before. Was it? And my stepson, can you please get out of here, buddy? Come on, dude. Thank you. Was it like a I love you, bud. Was it just one fan or was it a lot of fans? Like what was the mood from your perspective? I'm guessing you were at that same game.
I think it was just a couple of fans. I think maybe just one or two. I'm not exactly sure. But the thing that upset him was these are the same people that were chanting MVP when he was playing out of his mind earlier this year. Now look,
Right.
Ja's probably not a real MVP candidate right now, but when he was scoring 40 points against the Lakers in the first few games of the season, Memphis fans were obviously excited. So I think that's what upsets him. Just the fact that it came from people that he recognized, I guess, that sit courtside often.
Yeah.
And Ja, look, he's a type of guy that has this big chip on his shoulder. He clearly searches for his name on Twitter after the game to see who's saying positive or negative things about him. That's just the way he is. He's just that's his style. That's in the past he's used it as motivation. For whatever reason, this one time it really bothered him.
Yeah, I can understand. And look, first of all, as someone who's been covering the Warriors for 20 something years, and I'm so grateful for this last 8-9 that we're finally good. For any Grizzlies fans watching this, in my opinion, that is an insanely positive attribute for your star player to care that much about winning or losing. That's what champions do. So I think that's actually positive. Shame on those fans for saying that. That is
it's nonsense, right? It's just nonsense.
It is.
Because this team is so much better with Ja Morant as the guy on it. And yeah, they had a good stretch of games. They played against teams missing their star players.
Yeah.
They beat up on bad teams. This team is so much better with Ja Morant. So it's incredibly frustrating for the real Grizzlies fans, incredibly frustrating for the people that want to see Ja Morant play his entire career here in Memphis. And now people are going to worry about it, although I'm not sure they should be at this point.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And we're going to cover that a lot more. We've got to pay some bills first real quick. When we come back, I want to definitely talk with Drew about Jarren Jackson's knee injury, because that's very similar to what James Wiseman has been dealing with. And I'd love to get your insights on that and so much more. But first, Warriors fans, you've been hearing numerous hosts talk to you about PrizePicks for months. Have you signed up yet? If you haven't, now is the perfect time. Drew, have you ever heard of PrizePicks? Are you a gambling man? Do you partake?
We have sports betting here in Tennessee, and I do that occasionally, not on the NBA, NFL only, college football too.
Nice.
I guess. But no, never heard of it. Never heard of it.
Well, so PrizePicks is an awesome platform where they basically give you their own lines, and you get to pick one of two options, whether or not, for example, an over under on a player's total for scoring for a night. It's really unique stat lines to bet on. Well, PrizePicks has an exclusive no-brainer of an offer for all our users. Users get $50 for free if a player in your first PrizePicks entry scores a single point, but you must use the code NBA. That's right. The code is NBA. This is an exclusive offer available to Locked On fans only who use the code NBA. I personally placed a flex play entry with an over on Stephen Curry and also an under on Draymond Green and doubled my money. Took me all of 30 seconds to make my selections. It's that easy, folks. PrizePicks also allows mixed sport entries. Use the award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play. PrizePicks is safe and offers fast withdrawals. Go to prizepicks.com today or go to your app store and download the app. All users that deposit and use our promo code NBA will get $50 free if your first PrizePicks entry scores a single point. That's right. All users that deposit and use our promo code NBA will get $50 free if your first PrizePicks entry scores a single point. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. And this show is also brought to you by Boost Mobile. You listen to podcasts for the power of knowledge. You switch to Boost Mobile for the power of saving money. Because with Boost, you get the power of a free 5G phone so you can listen to all the latest episodes. The power of 3 unlimited data lines for $30 a month per line so your family can harness all that brain power too. And the power of one of America's largest 5G networks so you can do it all at the speed of 5G. With all that money you'll save and all that knowledge you'll gain, just how powerful will you become? Switch to Boost Mobile and find out. Get a free Samsung Galaxy A32 5G when you switch to one of America's largest 5G networks. More power to save? Boost Mobile. And now we go back with Drew Hill on Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And again, this is Locked On Warriors. And I do want to add, thanks for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms. My stepson, who's officially on vacation, for you PrizePicks subscribers, wanted to show you that code one more time.
It's NBA. You heard him. It's NBA.
It's NBA. All right, buddy.
There it is.
Okay, so real quick here, and I want to talk again about the Grizzlies. The Warriors and Grizzlies play each other tonight. And the last time they played, the Grizzlies beat them. One of the Golden State's 5 losses this year, I think they have 6, I'm sorry, is to the Grizzlies. This happened earlier this year when Ja Morant was playing. Is there validity, in your opinion, to the criticism that Ja Morant, the one part of his game he hasn't really gotten to yet in terms of a star level, an all-star level, is his defense? Or is that criticism completely overrated?
No, that is fair criticism. I would also mention this, like, if you are a star player, you save some energy on the defensive end, especially if you're a guy like Ja Morant. The Grizzlies aren't asking Ja Morant to be their best defensive player, but they need him to give a little bit better effort than he gave at the beginning of the season. We saw when he came back, because we saw the Grizzlies' defense improved so much when he was out. When Ja came back, the defense, or his defensive effort, was very good in the Oklahoma City game. I thought he did a very good job. So obviously that's encouraging. But the struggles with the Grizzlies defense early in the year, to me, was less of a Ja Morant playing and not, I guess, being this excellent defender, and more so the fact that they were missing Dillon Brooks, who was out with a hand injury, and Dillon is their absolute best defender. So, I think some of the Ja Morant criticism on defense gets a little bit overblown because of the absence of Dillon Brooks. But look, Ja's a slight of build guy, a smaller guy. I just don't think that they're expecting that he's going to be this awesome defender. They need him to go out and score points and set up other people. That's his number one job. And, defense, it does matter. It's half of the game. But for Ja, it might be 25% of the game.
Grizzlies fans, and I hope I'm representing Dub Nation in saying this with all due respect, and I hope you take this criticism as a compliment. Dillon Brooks is my number one enemy right now in the NBA. He is a menace, and the Grizzlies beat the Warriors without him in that last matchup. I'm not going to forget that playing game. I mean, it was stout. I mean, no player is going to stop Stephen Curry, but all you can do is try to disrupt them and make it difficult for him to score. And Dillon Brooks was doing that. So you guys are stoked on that. I want to ask real quick. James Wiseman's been out for nearly 9 months now with that partially torn meniscus. As you mentioned, he played for the University of Memphis under Penny Hardaway. And when Dub Nation's patience has been growing a little thin recently, and I started trying to track down, like, what other players have suffered a similar injury like this, where they stayed out for this long of a time. And the only name that came up, and this was from another Twitter user, was Jarren Jackson Jr., who's now playing, who's now producing. What was the deal with that injury, and how is he doing with it now? Is he 100%? Like, I'm sure Warriors fans would love to hear this.
So Jarren, he went out with a meniscus tear in the bubble. He sat out a lot. They had the option to either just repair. I don't know the exact terms, but you can either repair it and get it all the way, or you can just remove it. And just removing it, the process, I think, is a little bit shorter than having to go through the full meniscus repair. Now, I'm not exactly sure where James Wiseman falls on that spectrum of how
it was repair. As far as I know, it was repair.
Okay. Yeah. So Jarren, we were told last season that he would, quote, be out a minute. The Grizzlies are really coy with the way that they do injuries, more so than almost any other NBA team. But he ends up missing 70% of the season, I guess, last year, roughly. A lot of the season. He comes back late. He wasn't the same Jarren Jackson Jr. that you saw before the injury. Now, the difference between Jarren and James is I think Jarren probably showed a little bit more than James showed in his first season in the NBA leading up to this. Now, that's not all James' fault, right? He plays on a team that has stars everywhere, and so it's kind of harder to stand out. You're not going to have as much opportunity as Jarren had during his rookie year, which was the year that they traded Mike Conley, traded Marc Gasol, just completely committed to this rebuild. So Jarren had as much opportunity as he wanted during that season. So a little bit different situation in that way. But I would expect that it's going to be a year plus maybe for James to come back and look like the James that we saw before. When I was covering the Memphis Tigers, they were recruiting James Wiseman in high school. And he was dominant at that level for obvious reasons. He was bigger than anybody else on the floor. He showed those flashes of like being able to shoot it a little bit, being great in the post. But I think the questions when he got to the University of Memphis was, where is his toughness level? And I know a lot of the players on that University of Memphis team were not happy when he decided to not sit out the games or just serve his suspension and come back and play for the team. And those relationships with those other Tigers teammates spoiled for some of them. So I think that there were always questions about who is James Wiseman? What will he be at the next level? And this injury just, to me, makes it even more difficult to really figure out what he is. I'm interested to see what the Warriors end up doing. You have a great team already. You have Klay Thompson coming back in January, it looks like. Do you need a guy like James Wiseman? Is there a team out there that would be interested in taking a guy like James Wiseman and giving you somebody that can help you right now? I think there are certainly questions there.
And huge questions. Huge. There's a lot of questions. I mean, the man is a blank canvas. I mean, that's my biggest concern is there is no track record to make any sort of educated opinion on him or to form one. You're right. And that's actually the first time I've ever heard that his college teammates were disappointed in him deciding not to come back and start preparing for the NBA. But then again, on the bright side, seeing Jarren Jackson recover. I mean, he's averaging 16.4 points per game right now. He's a menace inside. I would like to see his rebounding numbers go up a little more, but he's definitely making his presence felt. And I'm sure Grizzlies fans are insanely happy. And just to answer your question about Wiseman, the Warriors don't have a center. They are counting on him. I've been a proponent. If you can trade him for something that's considerably valuable, you do it yesterday, but they seem dead set on him, and every pro I've talked to loves him. But I do appreciate your insights on that. Drew, can you stick around for one more second? I got a couple more questions for you if you're free. Is that okay?
Yeah, no problem.
I love it, man. Thank you so much. I want to quickly show some love to another one of our sponsors, TrueBill. Do you know why free trials renew without your consent? It's a business scam out to get you. And I personally love sponsors of this show that provide a service that we all could really use. And TrueBill does that. Don't let greedy corporations pocket your money. Download TrueBill to take control of your subscriptions. In my case, for example, I didn't realize I was subscribing to 2 Netflix accounts. I didn't realize that I had all these renewed subscriptions on Amazon for products that I don't want repeated purchases each month. And that's what TrueBill does for you. It's a new app that helps you identify and stop paying for subscriptions you don't need, want, or simply forgot about. On average, people save up to $720 a year with TrueBill. Don't fall for subscription scams. Start canceling today at truebill.com/lockedonnba. Again, that is truebill.com/lockedonnba. Go right now. Truebill.com/lockedonnba could save you thousands a year. Again, truebill.com/lockedonnba.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
For making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms. I'm joined by Drew Hill of the Daily Memphian. I hope I got that right. And for those listening to the podcast, you can follow Drew on Twitter at DrewHill_DM. And the Warriors play the Grizzlies tonight. I believe they'll play one more time later this year. Please correct me if I'm wrong on that.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm looking at I guess first of all, before I look at the Grizzlies roster, because I have a few questions pertaining to just what they're doing to get things right consistently. Because what happened with that 73-point win? I didn't watch it. I heard about it like every basketball fan did. Set the record for the biggest blowout in NBA history. For me, any record that's set that breaks a record like this, given the league's expansive 75-year history now, what happened in that game? I mean, I'm guessing you watched it. Like, how did the Grizzlies blow out the Thunder for 73 points?
It was one of those games where, I'm sitting down there by the court and you look up and they're up by 20. And that's not surprising, right? In the first quarter, you're like, they're playing against a team with no Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, no Josh Giddey. He wasn't playing in that game either. It was like, I think Ty Jerome was their starting point guard that night. No offense, Ty Jerome, but like it was a roster where you looked at it and you said, this is an NBA team, these guys. And they were up by 20. The Grizzlies were making everything. Then you look up again and it's 35 and it's the first half. And you're like, man, this is a real beatdown. And you expect that they'll take their foot off the gas a little bit here.
Yes.
And you get into the third quarter, they were up by 60 something. And we were looking around like, okay, it's time to start checking the record books because they're still not missing shots. It was a perfect night for the Memphis Grizzlies. They shot it amazing from three. They played great defense. And it was an atrocious effort and an atrocious team that Oklahoma City threw out here. And so by the end of the night, we're like, dang, this might be as rare as like Wilt's 100 game. Like we might see the biggest win in NBA history. And that we knew that 61 wasn't the record because the Grizzlies lost to the Hornets by 61 in 2019. And then once we saw that it was 73, I mean, that was just – it got out of hand so fast. And every time you looked up, it was like the Grizzlies had increased their lead by 5 or by 10. I kept the box score. I got the box score in the other room just because, that's history. I don't want to throw that away.
Yeah. And I love those old school box scores that the PR departments produce for the media. Like, for some reason, just, call me weird, but I love those things. And I would frame that for sure. Because who knows if that's it. I don't even know what record that broke. What was the previous record? Like, who owned that? Do you know?
Oh, man.
It's okay if you don't. I don't mean to put you on the spot with that.
I can't remember, but all I can remember is like, we had, I think Jeremiah Robinson Earl on Oklahoma City was minus 56 in the game, and he played 22 minutes. I mean, and you go back and look at some of the worst. Like there was a minus 57. I think it was on the 2001 Cavs or something like that. Yeah. There was a minus 57. I can't remember who the player was, but he played 40 minutes. Jeremiah Robinson Earl was minus 56 in 22 minutes of playing that game. You can go up and down that box score and just find hilarious numbers throughout.
Oh my God, that is crazy. Well, congrats to the Grizzlies for setting that mark. And I'm looking at the Grizzlies roster right now, and there's just certain front offices in the NBA that get it, right? And to me, there's a lot more that don't, and the blame can fall on a myriad of things: poor ownership, nepotism, ego. But the Grizzlies, their track record, I mean, I'm looking, for example, at a player like Desmond Bane, who has been an incredible contributor for your team, averaging 16.5 per game, just a shade above Jarren Jackson. And you acquired him from the Celtics in a draft day trade for 2 second-round picks. Granted, he was I think the 30th pick overall. John Morant was a lottery pick, but I can't remember who other teams passed up certain players for Morant to fall to, folks. Dylan Brooks, I don't think anyone would have predicted he would have been a 20-point-a-game scorer, one of the best defenders in the game. And Kyle Anderson is another player. I mean, the depth of your team, Steven Adams, you acquired Zaire Williams in the draft, who I think could be a great player someday. What do you attribute to the Grizzlies' success with their front office decisions?
They draft really well, and they do the most. And by do the most, I mean those types of trades where they will take on Andre Iguodala, who doesn't want to play, because it means they'll get a first-round pick with it.
Right.
Or they'll take back Marc Gasol from the Lakers and because it's a bad contract, but the Lakers will give him a second-round pick with it. They did it with the Utah Jazz. They have a first-round pick from the Grizzlies. Right now, they have this team that's blossoming, right? They're fourth in the West, which is they're exceeding expectations. Yeah. They have 2 superstars, or 1 superstar and 1 player that everyone's hopeful can be a star in Jarren Jackson. They've got a fringe all-star type guy in Desmond Bane and maybe another fringe all-star type guy in Dylan Brooks. And you've acquired all of those guys just by drafting well.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, in addition to this team that they have right now, they got 3 first-round picks this year. People don't even talk about that. So
Oh my God.
the Grizzlies do the most when it comes to taking back assets, maximizing all of the cap space that they have. They know they're not going to sign free agent players, so they take back bad contracts, and with them come picks, and they've drafted extremely well. Brandon Clark was a first-team all-rookie player. Ja Morant, they were so fortunate to get Ja Morant. Ja Morant's second pick in the draft behind Zion Williamson, who has not worked out.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
So incredibly fortunate to get Ja Morant.
Yes.
We all know if the Grizzlies were one, they would have taken Zion Williamson. So, that's obviously takes a little bit of luck. But guys like Desmond Bane, getting him at the last pick of the first round, that was a fantastic trade for them.
Heck yeah.
Xavier Tillman was a second-round pick. He's contributing. He hit the big three-pointer in the play-in game last year. They've just drafted extremely, extremely well. It's a credit to Zach Kleiman, who's their GM, and to Tayshaun Prince, who's a big – everyone knows who that is, who's a big advisor in that basketball office. And so the combination of that has led to a lot of success for a small market team like Memphis.
That's incredible. I did not know Tayshaun Prince had a role there. I mean, yeah, if any of you remember the 2000s, I mean, he was an incredible player for the Pistons, won a championship with them. That is incredible. So the Warriors, and again, there really just are not a lot of teams in the NBA who have smart front offices, right? Who have an acumen for making wise decisions, and the Grizzlies have that. I'm really stoked that my Warriors have that, in my humble opinion. I think they are in that class, right? But the Grizzlies are right there, and I see your team being a threat for now and for years to come. I just want the Warriors to beat them once, so we can at least get over that little confidence hump.
I think the Warriors have got a good chance in this one, just because you got the Grizzlies kind of reeling a little bit off of 2 straight losses to Portland and Oklahoma City. They got to figure out a way to sort of reintegrate Ja Morant after the injury. I don't think the Grizzlies are in a very good spot entering the game tonight, but we'll see. That's why they play them.
And they seem to have the Warriors number. So, from my perspective, it's always concerning playing the Grizzlies. And Drew, before we let you go again, you can follow Drew Hill on Twitter at DrewHill_DM. Anything else you'd like to promote before we call it a wrap?
Well, if you are interested in the Memphis Grizzlies or NBA coverage in general, obviously you should go check out the Daily Memphian. I also have my own podcast where we talk about the Grizzlies. We actually talked about this upcoming road trip for Memphis. We talked about the Warriors game specifically in the podcast. You can find that on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. And that is the Daily Memphian Memphis Grizzlies podcast. So if you want to check that out, you can go listen to what we had to say about the Warriors game.
Beautiful. And I always love getting other perspectives on that. So that's definitely a good listen, Dub Nation, if you're listening to this right now. And before I let you go, I've been to your city. I was on a crazy road trip with my dog, and I stopped in Memphis. I went to Blue City Cafe because back in 2015, when the Grizzlies were leading, and we talked about this before we started the show, but for those listening right now, in 2015, the Warriors were down to the Grizzlies. This was back during the Marc Gasol, Zach Randolph days, Mike Conley as your point guard, so forth. God, who else was on that team? It was Mike Miller. There's a lot of Tony Allen, I think, was there.
Yeah.
That was a great team. I was legitimately worried in that series when they're down 2-1, and Draymond Green decides to take the team out for dinner one night. And they go to Blue City Cafe, and that story for Dub Nation is lore. So when I was in Memphis and I'm walking down Beale Street, see all the Grind City memorabilia and posters and paintings everywhere, murals. And I stopped and ate there at Blue City Cafe. Unfortunately, I got food poisoning, and I didn't realize until talking with you today that Blue City Cafe is more of like a nighttime drinking spot. I did not have booze in my tummy.
So Blue City Cafe is on the end of Beale Street. Beale Street leads up to FedEx Forum where the Grizzlies play.
Yes.
And there's all sorts of events there. But that's where the bar scene is in downtown Memphis. And so Blue City Cafe is open 24 hours. You can go in there and eat whenever you want. They are famous, obviously, everywhere you go in Memphis has barbecue.
Yeah.
But the late night thing that people get there is seafood gumbo fries. So you've heard of like chili cheese fries? They put gumbo on top of French fries with cheese and all that sort of stuff. It's so bad for you. It's a heart attack on the street. But it's incredibly good. if it's not going to give you food poisoning. But no, next time you're in Memphis, we got to take you to like a real barbecue spot. We got to get you to
Deal.
Rendezvous or Central or something. We got to get you off of
Oh,
the street. That's the tourist part of town.
oh, I love that, man. And but I got, random question. I never realized until I went to Memphis how close of a proximity the city is to Mississippi. Well, even though technically you're in Tennessee, like, do people there associate more with Mississippi, or do they call themselves Tennesseans?
They call themselves Memphians.
All
So
right.
the thing is, people say I'm from Memphis, Memphis. I'm not from Memphis, Tennessee.
Gotcha.
Because the rest of the state is very different from Memphis in a lot of different ways. I don't think they associate with, like, you're on the border of Arkansas and Mississippi, both.
You're right.
So I don't think that, I mean, there are people that are from Mississippi and people that are from Arkansas that say they're from Memphis, even though they're outside of the city limits. But yeah, no, people are from Memphis, Memphis. They're not from Memphis, Tennessee.
That's incredible. I love it. Thank you so much. And thanks for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. This is our last show before Christmas. So Merry Christmas, Dub Nation, and to everyone listening and watching. Now make your second listen Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all platforms. Drew, thank you so much again. This was such a pleasure. And I hope we do this again sometime soon, man. And hope everyone enjoys the game and hope everyone enjoyed the listen. And thanks, man.
Yeah, hopefully it's a playoff series next time instead of a play-in game. That would be great.
I see that happening, dude. And I really do see that happening. And we're definitely doing this again if that happens, if not sooner. So thank you so much, Drew.
All right, appreciate it, Cyrus. Thanks.
And thanks, everyone. Take care.